Welcome in to Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs. Obviously, a little bit different. I have an off day today, but the Texans practice, so I still wanted to give y'all some news and notes from Texans practice today. Everything you need to know that went down during this morning training camp session. First off, later yesterday evening, the Texans went ahead and they signed fullback tight end Nick Bawden. With the corresponding move with that, they actually placed Dalton Keene on injured reserve. So a little just shuffling on the back end of the roster right there. Nick Bawden, I don't think as of this moment that he is in play for a fullback tight end position on the team, but you never know. I mean, they added him this late in training camp. I think it might just be for another body, but obviously just a little roster move transaction that you need to know. Some injury news from today. Kendrick Green, the offensive lineman who the Texans traded for last season from the Pittsburgh Steelers, he went on to tear his meniscus during play last season, had to finish the year on IR. He was injured today, walked off under his own power, but was seen slamming his helmet on the ground, obviously upset. Something with his lower body, some sort of injury. I'll keep you updated with whatever happens with that injury or if anything comes of it. But Kendrick Green, a good depth piece along this offensive line, injured during practice today. So don't love to see that because obviously last year it was that kind of carousel of injuries along the offensive line that got our year started, and we don't want to see that again. So happy that, a lot of our guys are coming back, Kenyon Green, Tytus Howard, etc. But this is a little worrisome because he's one of the better depth pieces, in my opinion, along this offensive line. Going to the defensive line now, Khalil Davis, defensive tackle, had multiple plays today where he really shined. I mean, was able to get into the backfield, get some tackles for loss. Khalil Davis really kind of trying to accelerate himself into this defensive tackle depth chart. We know Mario Edwards Jr. is going to be the starting defensive tackle next to Foley Futakasi until DeMeco Autry gets back. But Khalil Davis, maybe he's like the third guy in that rotation. And once DeMeco comes back, the fourth guy in that rotation that kind of, cycles in and out at the defensive line for this Texans team. Really good sign there because the defensive tackle room really needed some help from last year going into this year. I like Foley Futakasi and what he brings, but if we can add another guy like a Khalil Davis or somebody else to that rotation that we can depend on, that's going to mean a lot for this Texans defense moving forward. Going along to some more notes from practice, Davis Mills was cooking. We all know he didn't play in the last preseason game, injured his ribs against the Steelers, and they want to be a little precautious. He was cooking today. He looked really good. He connected with John Metchie on a nice 50-yard bomb over C.J. Henderson. Metchie was able to bring it in. A really good play by them. And then maybe the play of practice, him to Xavier Hutchinson, a deep one-handed touchdown grab. I mean, a highlight play from X. He's really trying to prove himself and say, hey, I'm not going to make it easy for you to cut me or put me on the practice squad, because Xavier Hutchinson, year two out of Iowa State, he has been maybe one of the most impressive wide receivers not named Tank Dell, Nico Collins, or Stefan Diggs this offseason for the Houston Texans. Xavier Hutchinson looking to somewhat break out. I know it's preseason, I know it's training camp, but he's looking fantastic for this Texans team. So I think really it's going to come down to that last one. I think X might have a really good argument for being on this team. Like I said, you have your top three guys in Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Stefan Diggs. Then you have John Metchie, maybe Xavier Hutchinson, and then maybe a Ben Skowronek or a Steven Sims or somebody else along this wide receiver room. But I think Xavier Hutchinson's really been proving himself enough to make this team and, be a part of this 53-man roster. He's been trying to work on special teams as well, which we know that's important if you want to be a back end of the roster guy like Xavier Hutchinson. But, I mean, he definitely has a connection with Davis Mills. And we talked about it earlier last week about possible Davis Mills trade ideas. Could the Texans look into trading him? I don't think that's a possibility now. I think the Texans really like Davis Mills and what they have in him as a backup quarterback. And we've seen from, contending teams around the NFL for the past couple of years, you need a good backup quarterback because, knock on wood, everybody knock on wood if you're home with me. you don't want anything to happen to CJ Stroud. But if he does have to sit out a couple games, I feel confident in Davis Mills taking the reins for a couple games and really, leading this Texans team and being the backup guy. Or even if CJ Stroud has to come out for a couple drives or a couple plays, I feel confident in Davis Mills' ability to lead this team. I think he's really impressed a lot of people this offseason. And really, once he's a free agent, I'm really interested to see kind of what kind of deal he gets, if he gets an opportunity to start or if he gets really good backup money. But Davis Mills, I think he's really been proving himself. And speaking of proving himself, Kamari Lassiter, rookie cornerback out of Georgia, got another INT today. Another interception off of CJ Stroud, his second of training camp. I mean, the locksmith I have it right here. The hair standing up on my arm right now because I am so pumped up to see this defense in action, to see Kamari Lassiter in real game action. I mean, he started the preseason game against why am I blanking right now? He started this last preseason game up against the Giants, and they didn't really test him. They didn't really go towards him, which could be a good thing and a bad thing because maybe he's just locking down that side of the ball. But I want to see him get tested a little bit, and it's a really good sign that he's getting these interceptions because one of his big knocks was obviously the 40-yard dash, but was also his ball skills coming out of Georgia. Didn't get a lot of interceptions for the Bulldogs, but has had a couple picks with the Texans. His hands look pretty good to me, so I'm really pumped up to see Kamari Lasser and what he can do for this team. Now, I have a couple more news and notes from practice today, but I wouldn't be able to do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors, Prize Picks. Football season, it's back, baby. Get started with the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there where you can turn your football knowledge into some cold, hard cash. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers, and I actually have some season-long projections here from Prize Picks that I have loaded up for you. Stefan Diggs, 899.5 receiving yards on the year. Do we think more or less than that? I think more. I think that's a pretty good projection for Stefan Diggs, but I think he can get 900 yards this year. Joe Mixon, his projection for the season, 849.5 rush yards on the year. I don't think that's a bad projection either. I think I would go the more on that as well. And then Tank Dell's 65.5 receptions on the year. Give me the more on that. That is the one where I'm like, I am choosing that one. I'm choosing that projection for Tank Dell because I think he can get more than 65 receptions on the year. If you want to play those picks or if you want to make your own picks, make sure you do it over at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. If you need any of that information, I'll put the links for you down in the comment section and description of today's video. Now, going on to some more news and notes from practice. We talked a lot about Dameon Pierce after the preseason game and kind of where he stands. And it looks like his teammates, coaching staff, they're kind of stepping up for Dameon Pierce. Tytus Howard starting right tackle for the team. He said, we all need to pump the brakes on Dameon Pierce and, the criticisms around Dameon Pierce because, he said during training camp, during practice, he's looked fantastic and that we don't really see all the work that he's put in behind the scenes rather than, those couple snaps during the preseason. And DeMeco Ryans even doubled down on that. The head coach said, the team needs to open up some more holes, and he kind of threw the offensive line under the bus a little bit. He said, hey, this team needs to run block a lot better and get more holes for Dameon Pierce, and he needs some more opportunities because, he played, a couple drives in this last preseason game up against the Giants. Same with the Steelers. He played a little bit here and there sporadically, but maybe this is a bigger issue with the starters on the offensive line and their ability to run block. Because I've said it before, Laremy Tunsil's the best pass blocking tackle in the league. Ooh, that was a tongue twister. Laremy Tunsil is the best pass blocking tackle in the league, in my opinion. Run blocking, though, I don't think he's elite at it. I think he's good at it. I don't know if he's elite at run blocking. And that goes along with the rest of the offensive line on how good are they actually at run blocking. I know they can protect CJ Stroud pretty well. Their pass blocking is pretty decent. But can guys like Kendrick Green, can guys like Juice Scruggs, Shaq Mason, Tytus Howard, can they open up some holes for this run game along with, Dameon Pierce and Joe Mixon? That's yet to be seen. Joe Mixon, though, on the other hand, he did get some good work today. We didn't see him in that preseason game up against the Giants. They decided to hold him out of it, but he looked pretty good today. He had a really long run on 11 on 11, and, Joe Mixon, I think he's going to be a really good beneficiary of this Texans passing game because I think they're not going to be able to stack boxes against this team. They're not going to be able to put, 7, 8 guys inside the box on defense, which, inside the box, that means, from tackle to tackle, kind of where the linebackers are, that kind of box right there where the defensive linemen and the linebackers are. Usually, a lot of teams now, they put like 6 in there because a lot of teams are running out of like nickel and dime packages to defend all these passes that offenses are doing in the NFL. I think they might even have to go 5 because this Texans team is going to try to spread you out a ton with Tank Dell, Nico, Stefan, and I think Joe Mixon's going to be the beneficiary of that. I said this whenever the Texans traded for him this offseason. Joe Mixon, one of the highest rates out of any running back last season to run out of 11 personnel, which 11 is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. He got some of the most run out of that in Cincinnati. I don't think that was a coincidence that the Texans went out and targeted Joe Mixon after they weren't able to get Saquon Barkley because I think Joe Mixon really fits what this offense likes to do, what this offense wants to do, and kind of going from his time in Cincinnati. The Bengals have the kind of that same offensive structure as the Texans do. They have 3 really good wide receivers and then a guy who can sling it in Joe Burrow. He goes from that offense to this one with the Texans, and I think it's a pretty good fit for him moving over to this team during this season. I'm going to end it on some really good news as well, some really good notes. Stefan Diggs, great all-around guy. The Texans, they hosted 10-year-old Lucas today who is battling lymphoma, and his wish was to meet Stefan Diggs, to hang out with the team. And the videos and everything, the pictures that came out from training camp today with Lucas and the Texans, I mean, it was really heartwarming. If that doesn't, touch your heart a little bit, you might need to get checked up. Because I think, seeing something like that, seeing a little kid who's battling through so much, who's going through so much, and seeing the joy on his face whenever him and Stefan Diggs were hanging out at practice. He was able to break down the huddle at the end of practice. CJ Stroud held him up kind of Rudy style as he kind of broke out practice. But I mean, just a great story. I absolutely love, this team being able to give back. We saw DeMeco Ryans, bring in, kids from all around the Houston area to practice to really kind of show them and motivate them to say, hey, if you work hard, if you practice hard, maybe one day you can be like this or one day you can achieve your dreams. And I think, their buyback to the city is even as impressive as how good they've been playing on the field. This team is really committed to bringing Houston together, to really bringing that respect back to Houston, something that we didn't see the prior 2 years to DeMeco Ryans taking over as head coach. And the ability of this team to kind of rally everybody together, bring everybody back to NRG, and kind of give that life back to the city, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I love what this front office, what this organization has done so far. Cal McNair, his wife, Hannah, they've been absolutely everywhere online, really trying to push this team, really trying to push the city of Houston, and I absolutely love it. Can't wait to see this team in action this year. And, I mean, season tickets sold out, so I know NRG is going to be rocking this season. Cannot wait to see our guys on the field. For tomorrow, the Texans have joint practice with the Rams, so stay tuned. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'll be bringing you news and notes from that practice as well. Really excited to see the Texans go up against some of those guys over with the Rams. I'm really excited to see our cornerback room. We talked about Kamari Lasser earlier. I'm really excited to see Kamari Lasser go up against Puka Nacua, go up against Cooper Kupp, and some of those guys up for the Los Angeles Rams. Like I said, stay tuned for that tomorrow. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Jeremy Chugs, I have a brand new Texans Today IG page. I'll put the link to that in the comment section as well. Until next time, drop those H's. Astros currently in first place of the division. H-Town, we are so back. We are so freaking back. So if you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you. Off day, wanted to bring y'all some more content. So go ahead, throw them H's down in the comment section for H-Town, baby.